Now, North Melbourne's new era begins against Richmond at Arden Street tomorrow morning, and this is actually where I wanted to stop for a moment. So, Alistair Clarkson's rocky start to life at North Melbourne initially derailed over the Hawthorn racism report and investigations ongoing, and then the very, very serious allegations levelled at Tarryn Thomas. Now, on that, I want to take you back to the start of this month when the Herald Sun reported that multiple women had detailed a series of very serious allegations to the AFL of harassment and threatening and intimidating behaviour by Tarryn Thomas. Now, Thomas would eventually take time away from the club, but not before training with teammates on the day in question, that being February the 1st. And it was at this training session that Channel 9 sent reporter Elizabeth Moss to Arden Street, while rival networks, of course, did the same. Now, Elizabeth did what all TV journos would do in that situation. She doorstopped people. She doorstopped Tarryn Thomas and Alistair Clarkson before and after training. But it was later that Clarkson emerged from club headquarters to confront Elizabeth and threaten her. And he told her, "Your time is coming," or he used words very, very close to the effect of. Now, incredibly, as some of you may recall, this is the same comment that Thomas stands accused of using in threatening text messages to women, as detailed to the AFL Integrity Unit. And here is an angry North Melbourne coach saying this to a female reporter. Now, Elizabeth was understandably rattled and detailed her concerns to Nine Chiefs when she got back to the newsroom. Now, I'm told the network contacted the club to complain before Clarkson offered to actually drive into Channel 9 for a sit-down himself with Nine Chiefs and the reporter in question. Now, there was an apology from the North Melbourne coach, who I'm told was genuinely remorseful and regretful. And it was an incident that went right to the top of the Nine network. Letters were exchanged, a formal apology from North Melbourne in writing, and a reply from the station. It is all said to be concluded now, and I'm told both parties moved swiftly to settle the matter, and it was resolved, at least formally, efficiently and professionally. But it does paint a picture of a man, a comeback coach in Alistair Clarkson, who is on edge. I guess the stress of the Hawthorn racism investigation has to take a real toll, with the ongoing eagerness to clear his name, a glut of cameras back at the club for this incident, that desire to defend one of his own in Tarryn Thomas, and perhaps, Clarkson was triggered by past events on the morning in question. And I'm told, for what it's worth, what he was trying to put forth was along the lines of, something bad will happen in your life, and when it does, would you like cameras thrust in your face? Now, of course, none of this is an excuse. And for a smart man who has seen just about everything in footy, this was an incredibly dumb thing to do with everything else going on. And the phrasing he used as well, while I'm told not deliberately used and deliberately the same as Tarryn Thomas, is almost unfathomable. So of all the things to say, he settled on that. By the way, Tarryn Thomas, faces court today on a charge of threatening to distribute an intimate image. All of this in the pre-season. Alistair Clarkson has released a statement to us here at SEN, which I'll now read to you in full. And this is Alistair Clarkson. "I was involved in an incident with a Channel 9 news reporter on the day the news broke about the allegations against Tarryn Thomas. There was a significant media pack at the club that day who were actively targeting players, staff, and coaches throughout the session, and my reaction was to protect our players and staff. To my great regret, I overreacted to the Nine News reporter and made one comment to her along the lines of, 'Your time will come.' That comment was in reference to facing intense scrutiny when you're in the public eye and how challenging that can be. When I was made aware of the impact of my comment, I sought to apologise immediately to the reporter, not realising how my words could have been perceived. I also opted to make that apology in person rather than by phone in the presence of the reporter and two of her senior colleagues at Channel 9 headquarters later that day. The journalist accepted my apology and we agreed to move forward." Signed, Alistair Clarkson. So that's a statement from him. If you weren't with us earlier on in the show, the details of what we're talking about can be found at sen.com.au shortly. That was the statement from Alistair Clarkson. Elsewhere, there are some really nervous people at Carlton this morning after David Cunningham went down with what could prove to be a nasty shoulder injury. Now, the injury-prone speedster dislocated his shoulder yesterday, and there is at the moment some chance he could need surgery. The worst-case scenario, of course, would be a reconstruction, which would effectively be season over. Now, that's a 6-month layoff, or the better part of. of course, the same situation that was confronted by Max King and St Kilda before Christmas. So the Blues are waiting on the results and the time that they need to spend in front of the specialists. Now, Cunningham was wrestling, I'm told, with teammates towards the end of training yesterday. Something of a muck around, not unusual, of course, and the shoulders just popped out. He just got himself back in the match simulation and the match practice sessions as well. He's just one of those players, David Cunningham, who was shown real promise, just can't quite put it together. So 41 games since being drafted in 2015. He hasn't played since tearing his ACL in round 9 back in 2021. There's been complications and setbacks since then, and now what could be a serious shoulder injury. We did touch on this yesterday. Some players don't give themselves the best chance. Others do, and they just don't have any luck. Carlton have got a few issues, actually. Sam Walsh, of course, we know. Zach Williams, Mitch McGovern with a back problem, Corey Durden, a calf at the moment.